The last section, and I wanted to give you an idea of how much cost, an estimated cost it is just in these categories. So I took positions that currently in this year are less than $13 an hour, full-time. And that's over here. That's this year. The salary scale for like teacher, assistant, school secretary, and you'll see the header at top. And then the impact of next year, where we're raising it up to $13 an hour with a 3.61% increase to the scale and the equalization of the gain between steps. So if you look over here in yellow, that $263,000 is the difference in cost. Well, let me back up. The middle column, the $170,000 is what it costs to take the teacher assistants currently where they are and increase them to these levels next year with the $13 an hour compliance and the 3.61% and the equalization of the gains. That alone for 65 employees is $171,000 approximately, just for that one category. Now that's captured in the budget.
That's in the 1.5.
Yeah, because some of these had much higher gains than others did. But in the 171,000 includes the increase in BRS and FICA and stuff, which are driven by wage. So that includes that. So when you get over here, this yellow, so this final column shows what's it going to take if we get them all to $15 an hour, which is not quite to $16 as was requested, but it would meet the minimum wage that if it still was in effect on January 1st, 2026, we'd have to meet. And so, again, raising step 0 to a basis of $15, 1.39% all the way through, comparing that new total to what we've already increased for next year in our budget would be an additional $263,000. If we compare it to this year, as if we didn't increase anything next year, and we're just comparing it to this current fiscal year, that increase alone is almost $434,000. And so when you look at that all the way down through for teacher assistant, 220-day secretary, 260-day secretary, custodian, maintenance skilled, you're looking at a total just for those positions. And again, this was just a selection to give you an idea of people that were under 13. That does not include part-timers or food service. You're looking at a total increase as compared to fiscal year 2024, raising everything to $15 an hour of $509,000. Comparing it to current year is almost $900,000. So that shows you the benefit of doing something next year to $13 an hour. It narrows that gap. Versus, so whatever the difference is between $899, $898, and $509 would be the gain in that year the $15 comes into effect, versus having to pay the full $900,000 if you did nothing. But that's a few years out, but that's on the horizon, and that's something that needs to be planned for because it'll come. And as Fred and I have talked, it's hard to fill positions sometimes when they can, go do something else, and for $16, $17 an hour, we're offering them $13. Of course, we do have a scale that offers advancement, but a lot of people want it today, not tomorrow. Some entities, from my understanding, are looking at some of these positions that are doing away with scales and paying a flat rate. I know Covington did that last year with their cafeteria workers. So, and there is no scale. It's what it is. You'd have to freeze the people that are above that on those scales if you did that, and that'd be a nightmare for payroll to keep track of because every one of them is an anomaly. But those are things that need to have consideration, and that's again why I strongly encourage you to consider a firm to take a hard look at that.
Because right now, as Kevin said, all of our sort of entry-level positions, cafeteria workers, custodians, and teachers' aides, well, they work different hours. Their starting hourly wage for all those positions is $12, and like with this work, they'll go to $13. But they're all the same. They're all, for step 0, it's all $12 an hour with this 13.
And it's it's an easy trap to get into. Well, they can go somewhere and make whatever, but do they receive health insurance there? Is it affordable health insurance? Do they have a pension there? So it's hard to compare apples to apples with that, but that's where the negative part of having a comprehensive study is people are going to expect you to do something about it, like Franklin County has experienced recently. So, any questions?
So in response to your question, John, our increase in revenue is 1,044,605. With the 1.5 million for personnel, the bonus money, those expenditure impacts are 308 to 4867. So that leaves a deficit of 2,037,862. But you can see the offsets to that. We had budget offsets with the VPI program, which is huge, elimination of Kevin's position, elimination of supervisor technology. Those offsets add up to 1.273055, which leaves our current deficit of 764,804. That's what was down to 350 until we got the hit of 414 Friday. So that's where we are now. I know that staff, particularly Brett, are all working toward, what do we need? What kind of staffing do we need for next year? And maybe we won't need all that we have now, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we can make those kind of decisions yet.
Well, and then, so your two options are to look at the requested expenditure increases and see what, if any of those, you want to trim.
In addition to the ones that...
Yeah, there's niceties and there's necessities. So what of those are on the chopping block that don't have to be hired? And then what other potential offsets do we have? And again, you could use the $600,000 in the consolidated funding from the state, but that has a sunset on it, I think 1 more year after next. If you take that money and wrap it into ongoing expenditures, you're going to have to cut it eventually. So why put it in there to start with?
So that's a nice little contingency fund that we have for this year. We do have it for next year, but again, you hate to use that for staff.
Is there any idea how much surplus is this year from vacancies?
It'll be sizable.
It'll be sizable, but again, we have no agreement that won't go back to localities,
Plus, one of the things, and poor old Becky's got a rough road to hoe this year because there's so many variables trying to even make a forecast, because you've got the vacancies, you've got people coming in mid-year, you've got increased, you're trying to estimate the increased substitute wages because we've had to rely on them so much. So yeah, you might have some gains there, but you've had some increases in expenditures. We've had some increases in sped expenditures.
We're paying staff lots of, I don't know, adjustment statements, whatever you want to call them, to cover because we have so many vacancies. Extra periods, all that kind of stuff.
Now, John, the one thing that, one of the big unknowns in calculating it is just going to be challenging, and the only way I know that, and this is going to be a late in the game kind of figure, to be able to figure this out, is when the detailed budget, line item by line item, is actually prepared. We have a tool that's, as changes are made, we update that, and it gives us an idea of where we are. But this replacement benefit, and that used to be basically, we've captured through the end of this month people we know are leaving next year and they're making X. But if we have people who are budgeted for next year and then subsequently leave, and the person that's hired to replace them comes in at less, that's replacement benefit. And normally we would be able to compare this year to last year and get an idea of where that is, but you got school consolidation muddy in the water. And to get an accurate forecast on that is just, I don't know how you do it. So, but where it'll all shake out is in the detailed budget. And with most of it being payroll, we have a budget tool that we use to list every employee, what they make, what our projection, their benefits, health insurance is. And then once those, increases are entered into the financial software, it projects those too. And we have something to compare to so we know we're accurate. And once you get to that level, then that's when all this comes together. But for, giving presentations to the school board and trying to get something to the county by April 1st is the real trick.
And I just wanted to also point out, you'll notice there for the health insurance premiums, we are looking at possibly a 4% increase, but that's not definite. We probably won't get that till mid-February. But this current year, we anticipated more migration than we had of county employees migrating to the plan, since Covington obviously paid more toward their benefits, and that's the plan we adopted. But we didn't see that, so we're hoping that we won't have a significant, if any, increase in health insurance premiums.
We can't take a deficit budget to the county.
No, we cannot.
No, we never do. So this is just the first blush with you guys, and the budget committee will get back together and start whittling it down some more. And again, I feel confident there will be some positions that, as Sherman and everyone does their magic, that will be redundant. And we have so many vacancies, that no one would lose a job. They'd just be assigned to a position that's currently vacant, and we would eliminate the one that we can eliminate. If we've got 5 Spanish teachers and we only need 4, then, you look at reassigning somebody and eliminate the position.
You're talking about salary and benefits, $700 and some $1,000 can go away, like, it doesn't take,
And we don't know what the,
right.
what the General Assembly will come out with, and I hope it's not June like it was this past year.
We do have some incentive, some contingency, don't we?
600,000. That's the, and there are contingencies. You estimate what different costs will be for purchase services, and sometimes we'll run over, sometimes we'll run under. So you hope that just in the line item budget there is contingency of some amount there, but generally you've got the 600,000, whatever you budget for capital outlay for minor purchases, like in school buses. At the end of the day, if you don't have it, and that's the nice thing about school bus can serve as a contingency, is we're not going to be able to buy it this year, although the money's budgeted because we have a shortfall. And the nice thing about that is this school division both divisions have kept up on keeping their buses, within the 15-year guidelines from the state. So it's not like we've got 20-year-old buses running around out there like some school divisions do. So if you have to miss it for a year out of sheer necessity, then you have that option.
But we have capital improvements that are necessary. There's a list coming, right, what the capital improvements need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And is there money sitting in the budget now to cover those?
The 2 million, or the 1.7's in this year, but we don't think any of it's going to get used this year, and it'll carry forward to next year to be used. So
That will go
We can
back.
carry.
and that's from the state. That's the state giving us that. So that does not go back to the local governments. That's earmarked for the school division, as is the 600,000.
For the consolidation fund.
You have that money, and
Starting to spend now as far as uniforms and
Okay.
that kind of stuff. That's
So,
still
but
there.
that's temporary, that's restricted for only certain
That is
consolidation
correct.
expenses that we
correct.
would not have had.
That is correct.
no, it's not restricted. The state doesn't restrict that. They give us the 600,000. We spend it how we please. So.
We don't have to spend it for, okay.
Because in theory, anything we've done is consolidation related. The salaries have gone up, the benefits have changed, so you don't have any trouble making that
Yeah,
argument.
new football uniforms and new band
Sure,
uniforms
yeah.
and all of the, starting from scratch with the new school system.
That's why we created Fund 14 School Consolidation Incentive.
That's it.
for
We're
that
not
very-
restricted from using it, it's just, obviously, the idea for us getting that incentive from the state was just as Kevin said.
We didn't
There's gonna be
use-
lots of consolidation.
We didn't use any of that money this year
Right.
for salaries, for the salary equalization,
Nor do I recommend it.
which
That-
was excellent.
But that's the consolidation incentive paid for all the legal fees. They paid for the consultant. Of course, the foundation helped on that. So the initial funding stream covered those kinds of expenses when we were not even consolidated yet. So.
Do we have an ETA when we're gonna go to the county and the city about retaining the excess?
Hey, I'm retiring tomorrow, Gerald. What do I know?
Not it's right. You got another 5 hours?
I'm retired on the job as of the end of this presentation.
We think that's a good idea to begin a conversation with them. I didn't mean to jump in on Rebecca and Kevin there, but we think that's a wise idea. It served the historic Allegheny County organization well. Honestly, it encourages us to be very good stewards, and that's what we would want to underline. Yes, it does help us attack big projects, that's very true, but it also encourages us to focus on what we truly need. Rebecca, does that follow for you?
Absolutely.
Yes, okay.
As I recall, you or Melinda, one have already reached out to Reed on that.
Right, I think the things that are critical are maintaining our local match, not reducing that at this point in time, and letting us keep any leftover funds at the end of the year to be put toward capital projects if needed.
And kind of to dovetail there, and I think this might have been part of your earlier question, it might be helpful to talk about the local match and how that plays into the budget. The current local appropriations, I have them on the screen, so forgive me. They are above the state required local match, which is important to note, and that's just our municipalities supporting us really well. So Allegheny County's is over 9 million, Covington City's is very close to 3 million. And that's wonderful. And I think that goes to your earlier point, because we have absolutely encouraged that we continue to match where we are there. Rebecca, can you speak to that with more technical expertise? Because I think that's the question about what Covington City's local match requirement
Well,
is.
there's, I think typically, the agreement said that, local match will be divvied up based on ADM, fall membership, which I think was 2,670,000, I think. So, and typically, I think we all believe that it's normally a 65% split between city and county kids. I think that's historically what it's been, and I think our numbers this year would indicate that. But again, the required local match is only about 9 million. We're getting 12 from our localities. They're very generous. Primarily on the county side. Based on the split that we currently have, the city would need to provide more local match than they have, based on the ADM split of about 275,000.
Okay, explain it to me again, I'm not paying attention.
The consolidation agreement said that the localities would provide match
Yes.
based on the number of the average
Correct.
daily membership.
Mhm.
Roughly, about 65% of our students are county kids and about 35% are city kids.
Yes.
So if you take the required local match, which is about 9 million, we're getting 12 now because the county is so overmatched.
Okay.
And no division pays it.
And no division pays the mill. Certainly no small division. Or large division either, no division does. The city, based on that formula of 65-35, would be undermatched based on what they've been giving us in the past.
Giving the Covington system in the past? I mean,
No, giving, based on what their current
this year's
local match.
breakdown,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Based on that
Funding formula.
funding formula that was in the agreement, based on ADM.
So you're saying next year they'll have to go up 200-some thousand?
That's what I was trying to determine. That's really right.
And I think they're aware of that. They're aware of that.
They are.
That when you pull up the calc tool, which anybody can do, you can do it, anybody can go there and do it. And then I think everyone around here knows what the agreement is. So it's pretty easy to figure out what the match is. What the match.
So
is
what
expected
is
to
the
be.
funding per student from our localities? Do you know, is that a formula I can do on my calculator?
11,000, is that roughly right?
I haven't even looked at that in ages.
There
to be
are
honest with you.
700 students? How many?
There's a formula for that, and it's not as straightforward as you might think, because when you look at how the state computes some of that stuff, they'll show local funding does not equal what the governments give us, for example, based on reports we have to do. So if we, it doesn't factor in year-end fund balance. For example, after the local governments give us their share and we get the state and the federal, and at the end of the year, if we have $1 million surplus left at the end of the year, that doesn't count. Even though the county gave us that money before, we would roll it into Fund 10 or whatever, for example. That doesn't compute in the state's calculation because that's not true expenditure. So I mean, she can share the formula with you of how you calculate that, but you know, it varies. 11 to 12,000 is probably
As a result
close.
of the end of school report every year, and they give you like the total, which I recall was like about 12,000 per child, I think. And then they break it down between state, local, and federal.
On the calc tool, though, on one of the pages of the calc tool, it does give you what the state's per pupil funding is. So you can go on and look at that.
Where's our
You're talking about
enrollment
basic
right
aid.
now? Where's our enrollment?
Basic aid.
Okay.
And they have a few other categories, too.
Where's our enrollment? 2770 or?
2670 is what we're projecting for next year.
And that's always a bit of a rough estimate because of the way enrollment itself is calculated.
Right.
So I think there's a good technical answer to that question, but it might require us to make sure we've got it exactly accurate, because we want to make sure you have accurate information.
Yeah, and Sherman's, over the years, done an excellent job of estimating our enrollment. He's been uncannily accurate. He's been a lot more accurate than the state has, because what comes preloaded in the calc tool, we never use. We use our own estimate because we're much more accurate than the state. And a number of the other school divisions are starting to experience that too. A lot of them just taking whatever state puts in there and away they go. But we've generally, we'd have a whole lot worse deficit we'd be looking at now if we based it off of the state's ADM, which is lower. Uncannily accurate.
There's another piece that I was just thinking about as we were talking that might be very useful to add in, and that is just to reflect back on instruction. Both Rebecca and Kevin have alluded to the good work the instructional directors and Fred are doing to pull together the teams, right? We're very pleased at the progress that's been made. It's not quite ready for prime time, as I like to say, but it is going very well. And a lot of those pieces where we'll capture some savings will occur through that process also, in my estimation. None of us can guarantee that, but it's really good work, really good steps in those directions. And you all have raised a couple of instructional questions as you move through that, and they're going to help us keep our good eyes on that. So for example, we had initially slated a potential CTE additional program expansion beyond AHA next year. Well, if we want to retain our AHA programming, which we really enjoy, that might not be the year to go at that. The counseling position, you all mentioned the counseling position. There was some very careful consideration.
Of redundancies and able to utilize staff in different positions. To give you a final number right now, be a little bit of a reach, but I think.
And the lessening redundancies equates to reduction of cost to help offset the deficits.
Yeah, I just know we promised there would be no layoffs.
No, there won't be any layoffs, don't worry.
Because if we had 4 Spanish teachers and one of them says, we only need 3, and one of them says, well, I'm not teaching English, then what are we going to do?
I don't know that anybody guaranteed them they might not have to do a little something different. They just guaranteed them they wouldn't lose their job. But
Maybe in finance.
yeah,
But I'm so glad you said that, because that's a really important point to underline, and everybody's been very, very committed to that. Continue to put our employees on.
We promised.
Yes.
They'll hang us if we don't.
and no one has lost a job that wanted to stay employed, nor have they had their salaries reduced.
Which is really incredible work. So we appreciate Kevin and Rebecca particularly in that work, because they handle all those salary pieces.
And just to talk a little bit more about your question, Tammy, this year, for the first year of the consolidation, all we asked of our respective local governments was they maintain what they had done previously. It's only in this upcoming year that percentage comes into play. This year, that wasn't the expectation. The first year, that wasn't the expectation. It's only the second year that the agreement said that it would be based on. percentage of it.
And I still maintain, the improvement in instruction, more options for students was all part of consolidation, but the local government contribution reduction was part of the equation too. I feel certain about that.
That's what they look at.
Well, but I think the underlying thing that they want to see, and we will be able to show them, is that these children will have more opportunities. There will be an enrichment of the quality of their education from the merger. I mean, when you want to look at it through a different lens, from the student's point of view, as long as we can show them that that really was, that, because that's, cost savings are one thing, and efficiency is one thing, but the quality of the education for the kids here is really what they're going to want to see.
You got to get Fred and start beating the bushes, firing people. They're out there. He's just not getting them.
Well, I mean, we've got some great people now that can generate
It's got
that.
one more day to get gigs in. Perfect.
We did.
Oh, he'll make me pay, don't worry.
Fred, we did see video or pictures of him in the wild recruiting.
Yeah, they
Not long
could,
ago, so.
and all those pens.
Sad part is that he has to do that to save face. If he gets one prospect out of it, he'll be lucky. And that's not any fault of his. That's
I think
just,
those job fairs ain't what they used to be.
No, they're not.
Unfortunately, they're just not.
Got to give them something besides a pen.
I read where there were 500 teacher openings in Southwest Virginia. You got a lot of fishing poles fishing in the same pond for the few fish that are there, so.
So anyway, I don't know if you guys want to tackle some of these remaining,
Or
things
probably
on
the
this wish list.
budget committee might be the place to do that, yeah.
Again, shortly, and we can do that. So, any questions?
Glad you're on the committee, John.
And I get you.
I said that at the beginning of the meeting.
Tell me
I
what's
liked
the-
it.
what is
They patted him on the
I've been on that
back.
thing for forever, so this year, thank you, John.
For students.
Hey, don't let him lie to you, John. He never came to a single meeting, not one.
Just called him, and said, I ain't gonna make it.
I thought it was pleasant night.
All right, well,
So
Kevin,
you want to know our
Rebecca,
cost per student, you want to know that, per pupil.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Did you have anything else for the board at large? Okay. Well, with that being said, we do have some closed session work that we need to take care of, so unless we have any other superintendent.
Thank you for being here, John.